This episode is about minutes 21 through 25 of Solo, a Star Wars story, which begins with Han and the Beast in a muddy pen and ends with Han and Chewie in a luxurious shower. Hello there, and welcome to Star Wars Music Minute, where we celebrate the music and sound of Star Wars 5 cinematic minutes at a time. I'm Xanthe Tan, you can call me Xanthe, and today is all about minutes 21 through 25 of Solo, a Star Wars story. We have a returning guest in the guest seat today. Camila is back to talk about this very Wookiee-like set of minutes. Hello, Camila.
Hello. I am so happy to be back to talk about my favorite guy in all of Star Wars, Mr. Chewbacca, the greatest Wookiee in the history of all Wookiees.
That's right. You can find Camila. That's still your username, right? BoricuaWookiee?
Yes. It is, indeed.
Yes. So when I was thinking of who I wanted to talk to about Chewbacca, I was like, wait, obviously Camila. And I love talking Star Wars with you, so yay.
Oh, me too. Oh, we always have a great time when we get to talk about Star Wars.
Yeah, we do. All right. So right off the bat, do you have any favorite moments from this scene or any particular things that you were drawn to that we'll make sure to cover?
I think so. Something that really stood out to me in this was that I was like trying to hear the music, but I wasn't really here, at least in the beginning, definitely when they're in the cell and in that pit, I was like straining to try and hear the music, but I wasn't really hearing it as much. So yeah, I would love to just talk with you a little bit more about like how that works when sometimes maybe sounds are overpowering over music, and how that, what that, like choices that go into with doing that. And because I feel like often when we think about like music and sound, we focus more on music in scenes and how that builds the scene and tells a story. But I feel like in this scene I was like thinking more about sounds than music and how that was telling the story.
That's a good point, because one of the things that I wanted to make sure that we cover too is just the way that Chewbacca sounds is so fascinating. I feel like this set of minutes, like this scene where we meet Chewbacca and then they cross the threshold into like becoming friends, or, at least acquaintances, not enemies or whatever. The sound design has such a clear point of view. And I feel like the sound, this is it exemplifies how sound design is not a pure reality. Because, we can take a listen to it in a second, but just the way that Chewbacca is introduced as the Beast, he sounds so ferocious. Like the first roar that he gives sounds more like a chrysanthemum like roar,
Definitely.
like a much more ferocious Wookiee than the one that we know. And it could be because, I don't know, he's more ferocious in that moment because he doesn't know that Han is a friend yet. But anyway, I just think the sound design of Chewbacca from Han's point of view is really interesting.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. That's such a great point, because we don't have a lot of moments. I'm trying to think back to prior to Solo, moments where we had Chewbacca being aggressive in the way that we see him in this scene. And I immediately think of Empire after Han is about to get the only word in my head is
freeze-dried.
I was like cremated. That's wrong. What is the carbonate? No?
Carbonite.
Carbonite. Thank you.
Carbonated.
I was like, what's the verb? But yeah, I'm like, I feel like that's the only one. And then we have the famous line, a Wookiee tear your arms off. But yeah, no, it's like it's very distinct in this scene. He sounds like very different and very scary. And then when you finally see him, you're like, oh, it's Chewie. But even then, you're still like, this is not the Chewie that I remember. I do not want to hug this Wookiee the way I do in the original trilogy.
That's so true. Yeah, I think also back to A New Hope when Chewie's like beating up stormtroopers. I'm still not sure if he like kills them or if he just beats them up, but either way, it's off camera. Like all whenever Chewbacca in the other films, I feel like is talked about being vicious and like, I don't know, tearing people's arms off or whatever, it happens off camera. It's not something that we
Mm-hmm.
see, or it's just something people talk about. So
Yeah,
yeah, let's
exactly.
let's take a listen to the beginning of this. This is, you hear the chain. And then we're about to get to the growl, the really big one, in about 6 seconds. Get ready for it. So that happens.
It's a big growl. I love what you mentioned, like how it sounds very Chrysanthemum, and now we can finally make that reference thanks to Book of Boba Fett. Being able to see, because yeah, they're two very, very different Wookiees. They look different, they act different, and yeah, this definitely feels like a more Chrysanthemum type moment. And it is pretty scary, loud roar. Just listening back to it right now and not being able to watch it, and you don't actually, when you're not seeing that it's Chewie, all you just like hear is this monster, and it's terrifying because you also don't get that like, all right, here's my Wookiee impression, but you don't get the like roar.
Oh my god, I'm amazed every time.
That you get. It's just a pure growl roar without that like rolling sound that's so popular with Chewie.
That is an excellent point, and one of the things I have to say about the scene, just to be perfectly honest, is some of the sounds and some of the movements don't look like Chewbacca to me. Don't feel completely Chewie to me. Like,
yeah.
And this is that roar is one of them. It something about it. I haven't been prepared with all the sounds that I've heard from Chewie. I haven't been prepared to accept that sound. And it's not that I can't accept any new sounds from him, but I think like what you said, like it just doesn't seem to have the components of what his natural voice is.
Mm-hmm.
So far. I don't know.
Right.
Yeah,
which I mean, I guess ties into the storytelling of the scene that like I forget how long he's been imprisoned down there. But I mean, it's the way that the Empire has treated Wookiees for all time, and not just the Empire, but a lot of people that they're constantly enslaved throughout the history of the galaxy and looked at as animals when they're really very compassionate, loyal, kind, nurturing beings, but again are only used for their strength and for what they can offer in helping the Empire and whatever their endeavors are as they enslave them, and just happens to be for Chewie. It's a punishment for Imperial prisoners, and so yeah, it's like, how long has he been down there? I think it makes, like, narratively it makes sense that he sounds and moves and even looks different than our normal.
That's totally true.
Chewie, because he's been down there for so long, and it makes me so sad.
I know.
Free him.
Oh, poor Chewie.
Chewie.
Yeah, and he's hungry too. So
hungry.
Yeah. He is still he still is quite strong though. Despite all of that.
Yep.
His fight to survive is still there, which is good. But the way that he, even like the sounds that are basically, there is a clear pivot. Actually, it's not super clear. So what am I saying? It's not super clear, but like definitely by the end, from the beginning of this set of minutes to the end, there's definitely a clear change in their relationship. And there definitely is a different way that he's shot, like the angles, like the different sounds, not even that he's just makes, but the sounds that the storytellers decide to make us hear. If that makes sense. Does that make sense? You know, like the thumping or the chains or whatever. It's like when new sounds of Chewbacca are revealed, or like we get new glimmers of their relationship, or, you know, whatever. We can't really call it a relationship yet, but when they are getting to know each other, some sounds kind of drop away more and other ones are a little bit more forefronted. Like we don't hear so much of the same emphasis on the same things that we hear at the beginning, I think.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's like the way that the way that it starts with that chain, that heavy chain rattling as it's being pulled through the hole, and Chewie is pulling Han and gathering the chain in his hands. That I feel like that entire lead up to the point to his roar is reminiscent in my head of monster movies, and the way that like a monster is coming after you, and then you finally see Chewie, and then he does this roar, which is terrifying and makes you scared and sad for him. And then once, I feel like for me, the shift in the tone of the scene comes when Han speaks Shyriiwook. And because I think that might be the first time we hear a human speaking Shyriiwook, maybe?
Maybe. I think so. I think if we're going in, well, like release order of the films, I think so. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's like, so then automatically, I feel like that's the tonal shift where it starts working toward, we're seeing the foundations of how the two of them get to becoming their own little buddy comedy in the middle of this entire Star Wars universe and this story, and specifically in Solo. So yeah, I feel like the shift in tone comes from when Han starts communicating with Chewie, and then that, I think Chewie might pick up on it too, and is like, oh, this is not just dinner. This person is trying to meet me where I'm at. This person could be advantage to me, but also like this person doesn't just see me as an animal and isn't just scared of me, but is trying to like level with me in my language.
Yeah, I'm curious why like the Imperials or like anyone else didn't even like learn a couple words of Shyriiwook. I mean, even as I say that, I'm like, well, even if I knew a couple words, I don't think I could actually perform it. So maybe that's why. Maybe you just have to be like blessed with a certain set of vocal cords to even be able to speak it. But I feel if it were easier to speak Shyriiwook, I feel like they would at least know some basic things like go there, like do this, or even to just rail into him or something. But then it makes me wonder, like maybe they don't even see the Wookiees as a species that like has a language and can talk. I don't know. Maybe they just don't see them as so sub like human or something.
Yeah, I think I fully feel like it's the latter, in that the Imperials are very much, you speak basic or you speak nothing at all, and I'm not gonna take the time to try and learn your language unless I have a translator or something to be able to talk to you. Whereas my my protocol droid to come and translate for me. Because yeah, I think it is like, because so yeah, because like throughout, there aren't a ton of people who learn Shyriiwook. I mean, we're both big fans of the High Republic, and I think one of the most heartwarming relationships is Master Padawan relationship is Nib and Buryaga, and how it's clear, I believe, in Light of the Jedi that Nib learned Shyriiwook to be able to communicate with her Padawan, Buri.
Yeah.
And yeah, and I think a lot of like people wouldn't go out of their way to try to learn Shyriiwook, because a lot of people see the Wookiees as an inferior race because they look fearsome, and so they're completely written off as animals rather than being very intelligent, wildly intelligent beings, which is one of the reasons why I just love Wookiees, because they're so misunderstood because of their looks.
Yeah, I agree with you on that. Although, from the other conversation that we have, that in the High Republic, I am a little annoyed with how Buryaga is handled. The Wookiee, but that's a whole other conversation, which we have had at length. So, but in general, anytime there's like a big creature on screen or something that's not a human, but the humans are, and by human, I mean human and humanoids, are interacting with, my flags, I don't know, all of the colors of all of the flags pop up. That's not how you say that. That's not even a thing, but whatever. Let's just go with it. Flags of all different colors pop up, and I'm just like on alert to see how that is treated, because that's like an area of Star Wars that I feel that I always have strong feelings about and just a lot of thoughts about. Now, something this reminds me of, to go back to the Book of Boba Fett, is the Rancor. And by the time people are listening to this, who knows? It could be in a few years. There could be 5 more shows out, but in more shows than just the Book of Boba Fett, like it happens in other stuff too. There are themes that pop up of like either taming wild beasts or, I don't know, learning new layers of animals or, big creatures or something like that. And everything that you said about Chewie earlier could also be applied to what we have been discovering about the Rancor, like they're emotionally complex creatures and, all of this stuff. However, I feel like if there's a hierarchy of sentient species, Wookiees are higher in the hierarchy than Rancors.
Definitely. Absolutely.
And it makes me wonder if it's like a size thing, like in a human-centric galaxy, I guess, the creatures that are closest in size to humans maybe are just the ones that win.
Yeah. No, absolutely. It's like, I know you're not, I feel like it's human, and then, like aliens like Twi'leks or the Pantorans. I'm thinking of all of the Chiss that are essentially humans, but just with different colored skin, Miri Allens. Mm-hmm. And then you start getting into like
Aqualish.
Nautilins, Wookiees, those kinds of
Rodians.
And I think, and then I think like Wookiees, the thing about Wookiees, I feel like Wookiees and Ithorians are kind of on the same category.
Oh, really? Okay.
I think because in the sense that they can't speak basic, and that their anatomy does not allow them to be able to speak basic. Like, at least the Ithorians have that
like that modulator, or that like onboard translator.
Exactly. So that like helps, because I think a lot of it comes down to communication, and beings are looked, the superiority of beings comes down to how close can they get to be able to speak basic, is I feel like what it comes down to. And so like there is like I think there is like an anatomical side to it. Absolutely. And then I think that goes hand in hand with, are they able to speak basic? And then you kind of like start going down from there. And then the less they're able to speak basic, the more animalistic they become.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. All of this happens in human society. So just something to think about.
It's crazy when Star Wars, mimics real life.
Yeah. And it's also, it's disappointing when Star Wars mimics real life, but then doesn't like finish the analogy, and then it just stops right there, as if it stops being self-aware and starts being like, but fantasy, and we don't have to do that. I don't know.
Right. Yeah. Exactly. I get you. Yeah.
But anyway, back to this scene. What we're hearing in the background here is the cue called The Beast 2M12, which you can find on the deluxe soundtrack, the deluxe Solo: A Star Wars Story soundtrack. And okay. So moving on. After that very loud Chewie growl, we have Han is trying to calm him down. Calm down, buddy. He says, we're on the same side. You like treats? Which is a very odd thing to say. And also, this could be a good time to speak Shyriiwook, but okay. Or not.
Yeah, no Han.
And then we get another really loud smack, and I'm gonna play it because it's another big one. I wrote in my notes, Chewie punch smack. Okay, it's gonna happen in a few seconds. There. It's not as loud, but it is it looks very painful and very powerful.
Yeah,
And
I don't know how Han is able to keep standing up after all of these punches and smacks. Or every time he gets hit into that pole, I'm like, how has your spine not shattered, sir?
yes. And then we hear something that I think is like the most heart-wrenching Wookiee sound ever. And that's coming up here. So, poor Chewie.
Truly, this entire scene is just poor Chewie. Han, you're fine. You'll get back up.
Yeah,
but
Han, you're
poor
fine.
Chewie.
Get back up. And then this is where we pan up to the troopers, and in the music, well, let's listen.
This is just getting good.
You killed him too fast.
Yeah, kill him slower.
Wait!
So that was Han trying.
Yeah, I speak a little now. Just listen to me, you.
All right. So it's very compelling to listen to humans speak Shyriiwook. I feel like you. I feel like you do it better than Han.
I think I am a little better than Han. I don't know if I have the nuances down of, because I know there's like, I'm not gonna try it. I'm gonna do it again. I can do that well, but the like like that part is a little more difficult for me. But yeah, Han needs to work on a Shyriiwook. He
hasn't practiced in a while.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm kind of sad that we never heard Harrison Ford speak Shyriiwook. Missed opportunity. Yeah.
I really hope there's some interview somewhere deep in YouTube or somewhere that we could find of him attempting, because
Oh my gosh.
I feel like that's content that we need.
I feel like it's content that we need too. So, any thoughts of what we just heard?
Yeah, I mean, what I think is interesting is that there are two moments so far where the music has cut out completely. And then I think that at least what it's doing for me narratively is that whenever the music completely cuts out, it's signaling in my brain a shift in tone in the scene. Because it's like the first one we had the monster movie type feel of Chewie coming in, and then we see him. And then this is something I would love to chat with you about, because when we see Chewie for the first time as folks who have seen the original trilogy and seen him in Revenge of the Sith, we're like, oh, it's Chewie, great, woohoo. I don't know about if you saw Solo in a theater, but I saw it in a theater.
Of course.
Yes, everybody was cheering when you finally saw Chewie. Mm-hmm. But it's like, what if you didn't know who that was, and you didn't know who Wookiees were, and you didn't know who Chewie was? Would you see that, and would you be scared, like when the music cuts out and he gives that roar?
That's a good question. I feel like that, obviously it's just a rhetorical question, but I would say, I would guess no.
Okay.
That's just a guess though. And I think it's because of the way that it's set up so obviously. Like,
yeah,
I think it's just really obvious that it's maybe a misdirect. And also I think modern moviegoers are probably used to something like that happening in other films. So I think Like there is something to audience perception that is filtered through the lens of having already experienced certain tropes like that. Like, you know.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I totally agree with you. And that's why I think that like, that's why then when the music cuts out, that then becomes a tonal shift. Because now it's like, oh, we're not actually supposed to be scared of this thing. Han's definitely not going to die because he's the star of this movie and he's in a bunch of movies after this. So, and then, so now it's like, okay, how is Han going to get out of this? And then moving into what we just listened to, the music then cuts out again right before Han speaks Shyriiwook, so that we can hear him butchering his Shyriiwook. And then I think that then the scene starts shifting tonally into getting to the playful banter between the two of them that will slowly become to be the Han and Chewie iconic pair that we see by the end of the film and then going into the original trilogy. So yeah, that was something that I picked up on, the way that like as the music cuts out, it's like signaling us as the viewer a change in tone as the scene keeps progressing forward.
Yeah, I'm with you, and we're going to get to more parts later where the music stops too. It happens quite a bit during this sequence, with a little bit of comedic effect, I think.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. Yeah.
And the comedic stuff actually starts pretty much here. Like that thing. Dee-dee-dee. When Han laughs and says, yes, yes, for some reason, I find that the funniest part.
It's great.
It's like, what is he saying yes to? Do you know what he's saying yes to?
It's in the subtitles.
Right. They're talking about, he says big stick. He says, look, big stick.
Yeah, he like calls him a big dumb Wookiee or something like that. And oh yeah, he's pointing to the big stick and he's like, I love the subtitles. It's like his broken "you me do great freedom" or something.
Yeah,
like
he's
that.
like, you and I freedom make by secret battle of pretend.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and then he's talking about the big pole with the stick.
Okay. That's what I thought, but then I just wasn't sure if the laughing like yes was a, I don't know. I didn't get that was a response to that.
Yeah, I think it's like a yes, you are understanding what I mean. Like because Chewie looks up at the pole, right?
Yeah.
When he says big stick. Yeah, I think it's like, oh, okay, you get it.
We're on the same page.
Great.
Yeah, okay.
Yes, exactly.
Because it sounded kind of like an orgasmic type of like yes. And I don't think that that's what was meant at all, but I mean that in the way of like kind of like relief, tension and like relief at, in this case, realizing that Chewie is on the same page as him and that they might get out of here. Definitely not an orgasm here, but.
Yeah, no, I mean 100%. That's, I think like, yeah, I think that's what we're supposed to be feeling too as the audience of like, oh, okay, great. They're gonna work together finally. Now they're gonna get out and Chewie's gonna finally be free.
Yeah, or at least on a meta level, we are watching alternate versions of ourselves watching this as if we don't know the outcome of Chewbacca and Han and feeling relieved.
There we go.
Yeah.
There we go. Okay, I want to circle back because you pointed out an instrument that was it earlier, that it was like that ringing sound. Is that something that's typically used in building comedic effect? Is that why you mentioned the comedic relief in this scene because of that, the way that the music plays?
I think the whole like section is comedic, not just in the instruments, but also in the timing, like the way that space is left for things to happen on screen. But also specifically, there was this line that went like, doo-doo-doo, and I'll play it. Just gonna doo-doo-doo. Like something about that. It goes doo-doo-doo, and then there's like kind of a held string thing. Doo-doo-doo-doo-doo. But often I feel like chromatic, soft brass, woodwind lines are used for comedic effect quite a bit. I mean, especially in like animation and stuff. Doo-doo-doo.
Yeah.
And if you think of like, yeah.
No, I was just going to say that the music from this point out starts feeling more like animation, and that was something that I wrote down as I was listening to it. Like this point out, and then it I feel like transitions again when they finally get out of the cell. But yeah, this part feels very animation like, which I think definitely plays into the fun and levity of this scene, that you're not as stressed, but you're more as like, they're gonna get out, they're doing great.
Yeah, that's really perceptive. And also John Powell is very, like, his bread and butter is animation.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that happens. And then they realize that, they're on the same page. So this is where I wrote, after Han says, yes, yes, we see a shot of Chewie. It's like we see his full body, and this is where he like starts to hit the pole, and they're like pretending and all that. This is where I'm like, that looks like a person in a suit, which is fine, but just stylistically, Chewbacca is different here to me. Mm-hmm. But it also might just be because we haven't seen. You know what it is? Okay, I think the angle of Chewbacca's body. See, now here I'm getting into it. Put it this way: older Chewbacca in the original trilogy seems like he has better like biomechanics or something. Okay. Like it doesn't feel like he's like going to throw out his back when he's doing something. But again, we haven't seen him do this level of thing. But it seems like when he picks stuff up, it's like he maintains like a neutral posture or something. Like he seems stronger. Maybe he's just not at peak form right now. Obviously, maybe he's at his peak in A New Hope. I don't know. But here it looks kind of like he looks scrappier. Like he's in a fight, and something about like the way that his back is. I don't know. I need to look back at this because I'm kind of just talking from my memory, and I haven't like fact checked this against just his position when he is hitting the pole, and we see it looks more awkward. It looks like someone who has not been to physical therapy yet and learned how to like, I don't know, use the full force of like grounding his body before doing that.
Yeah, I think I totally agree with you. I was definitely picking up on, he doesn't look like the Chewie that we're familiar with. And I'm just going to chalk it up to that he's malnourished.
He's under duress. Yeah.
Yeah. He's been down there for a while. He needs a little food. That's not just a human every every few weeks or whatever. But yeah, it definitely feels, because I mean, it doesn't work until he puts his entire body into it and slams Han into the pole itself. So yeah, I think that, yeah, it definitely feels like he's a little off his game here, and is just like swinging his arms at it because, yeah, maybe he's malnourished, he's tired, a little weak. He needs to hit the gym, the Wookiee gym, build that strength again.
Yeah. Well, he is a mangy Kashyyykian moof milker, according to Han. So there you go.
This is true. That's a good insult. I'm going to save that for a later date.
Yeah. Mangy is like such a. Okay, so finally the pen collapses or something, like the whole thing just collapses in on itself. Is that what happens? I'm not even quite sure because it's so dark, but something happens. It goes bang, and Han and Chewie duck for cover, and again the music stops. And so let's listen to that in context.
10 credits, he doesn't last another minute.
Get out of here! I can't take it anymore! No! Stop!
Get him.
You tired, you mangy Kashiki and moof milker?
And then
See what happens when you listen to me?
yeah, the music stops just in time for Han to give his line.
Oh, Han. You see what happens when you listen to me? You see what happens when a
Like
Wookiee
that was his
does
takeaway.
thing?
That was his takeaway from the situation. See what happened. Not see what happens when we collaborate. Not see what happens. I mean,
Truly. Oh
yeah.
my gosh. Chewie really loves Han to put up with Han for as long as he does.
And this is why he has a life debt.
Right?
So then Han or Chewie's the one that has the bright idea to throw Han out of the pen. Like Chewie kind of saves them.
Yeah, this is true.
And then we start to hear the cue.
Hey, what are you doing?
So this music that we're hearing right now is the beginning of Chewie Untamed 2M13 on the deluxe edition of the soundtrack. And on the regular version of the soundtrack, it is the same track is called Flying with Chewie. So interesting.
Love it.
And I guess I would describe it as like fast-paced, percussive hits. The strings are kind of going like, or something like that, you know, or it's like something like that. And this is the Chewie Untamed part, but yeah, this comes right after the Beast. So we go from the Beast to Chewie Untamed. And I think it's funny that the same piece of music has such different names on the respective soundtracks. Chewie Untamed versus Flying with Chewie.
Yeah, that's interesting that the who chose the titles of the tracks and why they're different.
Well, the track, like the second half of it feels like it's Flying with Chewie, and the first half of it feels more like Chewie Untamed. So maybe when, like in the original release, it was first released as Flying with Chewie, and then a few years later, when John Powell released the deluxe edition of the soundtrack, maybe they decided to honor the first half of the track instead. I don't know. I just think it's funny that they're on the same track and that they are like two sides of the same coin or something. If you know what I mean.
Yeah, no, totally. And I do love how the music then goes from, like we were talking about, that very like animation, fun, light style into like a chase. It feels like a chase sequence in this scene, the way that it's like building a different kind of suspense than it was at the very beginning of these 5 minutes, because it is kind of a chase. They're at least chasing to try and get back to that ship so that they can escape. But yeah, I do really love Flying with Chewie and the way that it ends, and we'll talk about that in a little bit.
Yeah, we will
when we get towards it. But yeah.
So I'm still trying to figure out how I can get my hands on the cue sheets, which is like the cue sheets of films are the list of all the cues, all the discrete musical bits that are in the score, and it's separated as such mostly because of organization and royalties and stuff like that. So cue names aren't necessarily always like soundtrack names. For example, like on the deluxe edition of the soundtrack, we do get quite a few cues on there, and that's why they have names like 2M11 and stuff like that. But if I can find cue sheets, it will also say like who worked on them, and I think it would list like additional writers, because I think from my research, I think that Chewie Untamed, I think that cue may have been either written or co-written by someone else on John Powell's team. I'm not exactly sure though. But yeah, I mean, on films, there's usually like one person that has like their name on it. And then there might be some people who like help on a couple things. And this might be one where there was some help. But yeah. So the I forgot what I was going to say. You were saying that you like how it goes into the flying thing after.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, I like that too. And I think it's funny because up until this point, like, we have no reason to believe that Beckett and Val are going to save Han. Like, they are the ones that sold him out. Like, they haven't tried to help them at all so far.
Exactly.
But Han has the confidence to, I mean, do everything up until this movie at this point has been some sort of bold, brash decision of like taking a leap of faith and being like, no, I can do this. Like, they'll like me. I'll get it. I'll get in with them. And here, after they caused him to be thrown into the pen, now he is calling them his friends, and it's like, my friends will save us.
You know that line that sometimes people say, it's important to try and have the confidence of a mediocre white man? I think we should amend that to try and have the confidence of Han Solo as you move through life, because it is, I don't want to say it's the same thing, but it feels similar.
Yeah. Yeah. He's fake it till you make it. He's
truly.
And to his credit, it works. So
this is true. I mean, if it ain't broke, why fix it?
Yeah. So who's the scrappy one now? Here we I'm not good at jokes. Let's erase that from the record. That's
a good one. It's a good one. I applaud you.
Thank you. Okay, so if we continue listening now, let's just do that.
Listen, you don't understand, okay? I have some very good friends waiting for
Good
me
friends.
at the airfield. They're leaving right now. That's our one way off this mud ball. If you want to live, we go that way. After that, you go whichever way you want. I don't care. Right now, that's the way you go. Trust me.
Okay, so this theme that we hear, that is, we have a leitmotif on our hands. That one is called The Gang. And it was written by John Powell. So, listeners, you know what I'm going to say. If you want to look at these themes, if you want to see melodic reductions of them, which means, you know, little tiny sheet music of them, I have it. I'll hold it up to the camera. Okay. Go to franklehman.com/Star Wars, because he maintains a complete catalog of the musical themes of Star Wars. And as I talked with a guest recently on another episode, themes, leitmotifs are not necessarily official. Like, they're not things. They're things to be noticed. I don't know. They're up to interpretation. So if you have, like, if you notice additional ones or think that something should be attributed to something else, there might be room for interpretation there. But it is nice to see it written out and to see it named sometimes, because that can help you notice it more when it comes back again. So
have any of the leitmotifs that John Powell's written for Solo come up in any other future Star Wars projects?
I have not heard any
after.
I haven't heard any, but there was a lot of speculation during the Book of Boba Fett that Crimson Dawn was going to show up, because people thought that they heard one of the themes from Solo, and what I believe people were hearing was the Secrets theme, which goes dee 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 dee. And as you could probably hear, that's not a very specific. It would be easy to find that anywhere.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a theme with a low specificity rating, I guess. With low, like, it's basically like if you try to find hidden Mickeys in a bunch of things, like, sure, if you're at Disneyland, you'll see ones that are like intentional, but also you could see a lot of them anywhere, and it doesn't and it's probably just a natural byproduct of functional shapes happening on accident. And so it's sort of like that. There's a lot of those things in music where unless the theme is like so specific, like we're talking like Leia's theme, which if you quote Leia's theme, and there's so much material to quote from, if you really wanted to quote it, you could go on for like, 30 seconds, and with every note that unfolds, you're like, okay, yeah, that's more confirmation. That's more confirmation. But when a theme is so short and malleable, it's just really hard to tell. And even if it is intentional, to me, there's less payoff. It's not as fun when it's one of those, because that also could happen anywhere. And it's literally just like some people can see it and some people cannot see it. But spoiler, Crimson Dawn did not show up in Book of Boba Fett season 1. So it appears that theory was, because it's just 3 notes. Dee dee dee. I mean, the theme has, to be fair, the theme has like harmony with it as well. Like it's not just that, there are chords associated with it, but if you strip it down to just the melody, which doesn't often tell the whole story, it's just dee dee dee. Like it's 3 notes. Like it goes dee dee dee, and in Book of Boba Fett it goes dee 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 dee. But in also so many other pieces of music, it goes dee 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 dee. Like I don't know.
Yeah, it makes me. I immediately think of Jyn Erso in the Hope Suite.
Yep.
Because that plays in these 5 minutes, right? Because I remember, I don't know where exactly, or maybe I'm thinking of something different, but I feel like there was a point in these 5 minutes where something played, and I think it's that, because I immediately thought Jyn, Hope Suite.
Oh, interesting.
And that was, I think it comes probably later, because I haven't heard it yet since as we've been listening. So if I hear it again, I'll point it out, because I immediately thought of Jyn Erso and the Hope Suite.
Yeah, please do. And what you're referring to is dee 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 dee. Yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about.
So good.
Yeah. So yeah, just a couple notes. So that's my answer to your question, but I don't say it with complete certainty. It's possible that it has shown up in other stuff. It's possible that some of these themes have shown up in future things, and I just haven't noticed or something, because Solo is the film I've seen the least. So it's the one I'm like less primed to notice instantly. That will change after this season. Trust me.
Perfect. You'll have to go back and watch every single Star Wars thing that came after Solo, so that you could know, okay, there it is. I got him. And then you'll have to report back. I'm waiting.
Yeah. It's funny how often like a rewatch it's like I'll watch something and then I learn a new piece of information and I'm like, oh, I wasn't looking out for that though when I saw it. So it's like, now that I know this other thing, now I'm primed to notice it. It new things every time.
We love it.
Yeah, we do. So when we hear the gang theme, this is when it's like an exterior shot of the airfield, and we see like Val and Beckett and Rio are in this ship that they have just, like this hauler that they have just stolen. And we get views in the cockpit, like of them talking. And then they spot someone on the field. Let's listen.
How do they breathe in these suits? It's so stuffy.
This is Rio.
No wonder they're such lousy pilots. You can't turn your head, you can't breathe, you can't hear each other.
So that's the ship taking off.
I'll be damned.
Hey, look who's back. Unbelievable.
Now they've noticed him.
Whoa, is that a Wookiee? Incredible. I'll say it, I don't care. This kid's growing on me.
The way that Rio says Wookiee.
You know, we could always use some muscle on a job like this.
Don't even think about it.
I'm telling you, you will never have a deeper sleep than curled up in a Wookiee's lap.
Wookiee.
A Wookiee. I'm gonna start calling Wookiees Wookiees.
Wookiee. Yeah. It's
also, I feel like Jon Favreau is the most dynamic Star Wars actor. The
is
fact
he
that he shows
Rio?
up yeah. I looked it up. Because I was
Just the voice,
I was double checking his name. Yeah, just the voice. But it was like Jon Favreau. And I was like, man, Jon Favreau. I'm trying to think and I'm forgetting his name. Is it Warwick Davis?
Oh, Davis. Yeah.
Yes.
The Ewok.
Yeah, I feel like he's been in the most, but Jon Favreau is very close behind, I feel like, in showing up as different characters throughout Star Wars.
Yeah, I know that only from like seeing it in credits and people telling me. I don't have like an ear for his voice. Like I don't really notice him. Like I don't know when it's him. I don't know why. I think it's maybe I haven't like heard him speak that much since I try not to watch interviews that much. And also I don't feel like I don't see him in that many interviews. But also maybe I just haven't been paying attention. But point is, like, to be honest, I didn't really make the connection between Jon Favreau and Rio. So but I know some people like always really, really notice. And yeah, for some reason that's just one that I don't notice. Anyway. A year from now, my Jon Favreau like Spidey sense will have been turned on, and I'll look back on this episode and say like, what a time that was when I didn't yet recognize Jon Favreau's voice, because now all I can hear is Jon Favreau's voice. So we'll see.
This is going to be your Jon Favreau recognition origin story, and I'm happy to be a part of it.
Music, you better stop for this. We're pivoting. Yeah, so Rio seems to respect Han a little bit more now that he sees that he has a Wookiee with him. And here we're still in the same track, flying with Chewie / Chewie Untamed, and we're starting to hear the music take a turn. Definitely a contrast to the beginning where it was like do 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 with the drums and everything. Here we start this buildup that I find so familiar, and I can't place it yet. It's a build. I like the buildup. It reminds me of like Beethoven or something. But I'll play it, and we already started to hear a little bit of it. But listen for it goes. So the buildup happens in multiple ways. The buildup happens in dynamics, like in loudness. So it starts soft and loud, and it builds up, so it's not sudden. It climbs, so there's like a crescendo, but also it happens like melodically, like the notes go up incrementally, one half step at a time, and then the instrument, like the orchestration, gets bigger as well. So it gets bigger in a few concrete ways. So it's going to go like, and then it's going to go into the next theme. But let's hear how it vamps on that and does that. If you are listening on the Flying with Chewie or Chewie Untamed track on the soundtrack, this starts at 123 of that. But I'll play it in context here.
We could always use some muscle on a job like this.
Right here.
Don't even think about it.
I'm telling you, you will never have a deeper sleep than curled up in a Wookiee's lap.
Now it's getting higher. And now we're on to the young Han Solo theme. Yeah. So it's a nice little build up. It's like going up a slide and then getting to go down it.
You know what it makes me think of? Especially the like do 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 do. It makes me think of Superman, the main title march, right before it goes into the do. No, every time I want to do the Superman, I always for some reason go into, not for some reason, it's clear why, but I always go into Raiders of the Lost Ark rather than the do 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 do. But it's the like. That's what it reminds me of is the beginning of Superman.
Yeah, it's like something in the rhythm that like I don't know drums up your excitement.
Yes. Exactly. And then it resolves into that sweeping, epic, like adventure heroes theme, which is very reminiscent in my head of, it feels very Indiana Jones, which I guess makes sense with like
Totally makes
Han Solo,
sense.
Harrison Ford,
And
John
also
Williams.
makes extra sense because John Williams composed the young Han Solo themes for this movie. And so he composed the part that we hear right here, which is... So this is called the heroic variation. Yep. So Han Solo, just to recap, there are 3 young Han Solo themes. Well, 2, but 2. The second one is like a part A and part B. The first one, and John Williams composed these. John Powell composed the rest of the themes, but John Williams, set John Powell up with some Han Solo, kind of like how he's going to do for Kenobi. Weird that like if people are listening to this in a few months, we will have already heard. Wow, I can't believe that. We can't get into that. Oh my gosh. Okay, so here, John Williams set John Powell up with some Han Solo themes, and he was originally supposed to do, just a Han Solo theme. And when John Powell was over at John Williams's house, and John Williams was playing piano for him, what a blessing.
Yeah.
He was like, he was apparently like, I have these 2 things I can't decide or something. And John Powell was like, can I keep them both? Like, I think it makes sense to have these variations because one of them is a heroic version of the Han Solo theme, which is what we just heard, where it's like, and then there's the searching variation, and we tend to hear that when Han Solo is less sure of himself. It's we hear it a lot at the beginning. It's like I always mess this up. So that's the more searching variety, and then the variation of that is. And this is my favorite one. And so yeah, just a little bit of a recap. But here we clearly hear the heroic version because when else are you going to hear it?
Exactly. When his luck gets him out of the tricky spot, as it always does.
It does. And then Han's like, "I told you, very good friends."
Oh, Han Solo.
Never change. Yeah.
Never.
And then, well, first, have we heard the thing that you thought that you were hearing yet?
No, I don't think. Maybe it was earlier.
Maybe was it in the buildup?
It might have been. It might have been in the buildup. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. But again, it's one of those things where you probably could hear it in a lot of places, and you probably did.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So now we're nearing the end of the minutes, but we have one final like I said in the intro, we start with them in the mud, and now we're with them in the shower. And first we hear it. So right there. You can hear that sweet shower. It sounds so clean. Like I can smell I can hear the cleanliness emanating off of them.
Yes. I just know it smells like Pirates of the Caribbean at Disneyland.
Oh. I think it smells like Pantene Pro V.
I really now I just want to see what the Wookiee size bottle of like Pantene shampoo
well, it's funny. Be. It's funny you say that because in the novelization, there's this part where they're on the Falcon, I think, and Chewie wants to use Lando's products. Or he wants to take a shower, and Lando's like, "Oh, I need to clear all my nice products out." Or something, but Chewie doesn't listen to him and just goes in there and takes a shower and just like downs the whole bottle, like just like uses up all of Lando's expensive shampoos and stuff. So
I mean,
Wookiee size is just the normal size, but the whole thing.
Exactly. That's amazing. So I feel for Lando because as somebody who has very curly hair, I have to use very specific products, and they're not cheap because curly hair is for some reason more expensive. And to the idea of like having like, so I can just picture Lando having just gotten this really nice product from some like bougie planet in the Outer Rim. He's come back, looking good, and then super excited about trying this new product, and then to go in and it's all gone. I would be so mad if I was Lando.
Yeah. So we have a luxurious shower, and I think it's luxurious because, well, the first shot we get of it is interesting. It's like rain falling directly from the ceiling, or it's not rain, obviously it's shower water, but it reminds me of those like rain shower heads where they
same
go from which I don't understand the appeal. Do you like this?
That kind of
they're in luxury places.
I feel like the water pressure would be bad from that kind of shower. I don't know. It doesn't strike me as great. It strikes me the way that the shower is. It strikes me as it is. I'm trying to think of the word that I want to say, but it covers a lot of surface area, but the pressure isn't necessarily the best. And I'm somebody who, with my shower, I'd like a lot of good shower pressure.
Yeah.
But I think the appeal of this one is that like you're always in hot water, so you don't have to worry about like, oh, I'm like washing my like hair, and now we're getting into like mechanics of taking showers, but like I'm part of my body is cold because it's not like in water. But I guess that's the appeal of like this specific.
I don't know, listeners, help me understand these showers. I will say that a lot of times those shower heads are in combination with, I think, a more normal one. So I think, I don't know because I don't have this kind of shower, but I think people will sometimes have like it as an option where they can do like the regular thing, and then they could pretend like they're stuck in the rain. I'm not really sure why.
Yeah, it's very rainforesty. So I mean, maybe I don't know what Wookiee showers look like, but it could be very Wookiee friendly if it like reminds Chewie of the jungles of Kashyyyk. I don't know.
Well, this is the shower that is just on board the hauler that they stole. So it just comes equipped with the shuttle or with the hauler. And so they have the luxury shower head, put it that way.
Yeah.
How do you breathe if there's constantly water in your face? But anyway, okay, we can move past that. I just don't get it. Don't you just like need to get your head out for a second? Just go like.
These are the real. I think it's like, yeah, if you were just standing in like a rainstorm. But again, if I was standing in a rainstorm, I feel like I wouldn't get you can't control the water in the way that you would like to in a shower. It's like this when you are, I don't know if your my sink, the hose, like the kitchen sink, the faucet is, I can switch it from like a direct or like a rainfall. And when I'm trying to wash dishes, I do not want the rainfall setting because the pressure isn't good enough. Exactly. So I think that's, hopefully this shower has, like you said, another like attachment or something to.
I'm also concerned about like the ship wasting resources. Like I feel like you'd waste so much water in that. And when you have onboard like water facilities, you need to conserve a little bit better. I just don't understand how the ship is making the shower work. I don't get it. It's like the Swedish massage versus a deep tissue. Is like I would rather no massage than have a light pressure massage where it feels like they're just ice skating with their fingers on my back. I just give me the pressure or give me nothing.
Right. It's also, it's just like
And
such a
Chewie's
bougie
fur.
shower.
How is it getting like all the mud out? That's probably why he needed to use Lando's, because he didn't get clean from the shower.
I mean, probably. And the shower does not look like it has a comb. And Chewie needs a comb because there's like mud matted in
There's
there.
mess, yeah.
He's got to go to like the salon to get his fur. He's definitely got to get trim, you know.
It's a good thing they meet Lando later.
This is true. Lando definitely helped Chewie with his grooming.
Yeah. So, anyway, then we see a shot of Han's feet in the shower. Yeah, Han's like, we couldn't have done this maybe like one at a time. Oh, you're so funny, Han Solo. You're so funny.
So funny.
So we could take a listen to this.
We couldn't have done this maybe like one at a time.
Nope. Saving water. That's what you have to do when you have a rainfall shower. You need to double up.
Exactly.
And this is here, the transition to the... Yeah. So that's the end of the minutes, but we did make it to the transition, the part where this track becomes more like Flying with Chewie than Chewie Untamed. So, thoughts?
But the feeling that I get every time as I would rewatch this clip was, and since we're both Disneyland.
Okay, wait, on the count of three. 1, 2, 3. Soarin' over
Soarin'!
California. Yes. Me too. 100%. I've been on this whole deep dive of like, why does flying music sound like this?
Truly.
Soarin'.
What's the Soarin', I don't know if anyone from Disney parks is listening, but if you are, here's a pitch. You should take Soarin' and for like May the 4th or any fun Star Wars days, retheme it to Soarin' Over the Galaxy. And then it's like going to different planets. And then you get like different smells of those planets. Like what would Tatooine smell like? What does Alderaan sound like? Naboo, Coruscant, and all of these different places. That would be a great idea. And I think
that is a really good idea. I mean, it's not that, obviously it's not like just putting up a new overlay. It's kind of like shooting and it's like kind of making a whole new video and stuff. But that would be a great idea. And I think something about the sound of things soaring, I guess, the soaring sound, it's like different. It's a different kind of flying than like flying through hyperspace or flying in space. Like there's something different about the fact that they are within the atmosphere and like seeing the scapes, which also reminds me of Soarin'. For those who don't know, Soarin', it's soaring, but like Soarin' with an apostrophe at the end. Soarin' Over California and Soarin' Over the World are attractions at Disneyland California Adventure. And in it, you are basically strapped into this, I don't know, this kind of seat where everyone kind of gets raised and you are flying, in air quotes, you're flying, and there's like this huge IMAX screen or something like that in front of you. And it's kind of like your feet are dangling, like it kind of feels like you're flying, and there are little atmospheric effects like smells and little wind and things like that. I don't know. It feels like you're flying. And the original one was Soarin' Over California, which they bring back sometimes, but they're both the same concept, except now it's Soarin' Over the World. And this is a ride where you just go over places in California. Like you'll go over like Palm Springs and you'll see someone doing a golf swing. You'll fly over, I think, Yosemite, and or I don't know, it might be, is it Yosemite? I think Yosemite. You'll see like waterfalls. You'll fly over LA at night and you see like all the traffic.
I've actually never done Soarin' Over California. I've only ever been on Soarin' Over. Yeah, they haven't had it they haven't had Soarin' Over California. I know I don't know if it's still there, but they brought it back.
They brought it back.
California.
And
I'm planning on going this weekend, so hopefully it's still there, California, when I go, because I've never done, because I know the big thing was the orange groves, and everybody's like, you can smell the oranges.
I like Soarin' Over California so much better than Soarin' Over the World.
That is a popular opinion.
I know. But it has this amazing score to it, and the Soarin' Over California score is by Jerry Goldsmith, a very prominent film composer.
Wow.
And it's probably one of my favorite Goldsmith things. Though I associate it with the ride, of course. It's a very visceral feeling of soaring over something. And the point is, it's like you're soaring over terrain, like you're seeing things like the orange groves and the skiing in the slopes and everything. It's not like you're just it's not Space Mountain where you're soaring through space. And so, yeah, there's something like connected to the earth or connected to the planet or something where you're above it, but still in the atmosphere, and that has a different sound.
Yeah. Because the other flying feel that like I love what you said about how like this specific type of flying music is very connected to like nature and atmospheric settings. Because then you also have the other flying feeling, which I get from another John Powell score from How to Train Your Dragon. Yeah. Flight Test, I believe is what it's, or Flight Practice.
Mm-hmm.
That one feels more adventurous and more active and less. They're both sweeping, but
That's a good way to put it.
One is more, you feel like you're the one who is actually in the driver's seat doing the flying, versus the other one is, like we mentioned, you feel like you're soaring over everything and you kind of have this like omniscient perspective, versus the other one feels like you're more zeroed in and you're more, what's the opposite of omniscient? Limited?
Focused, narrow.
Yeah.
I know what you mean. Like one of them is more like, it's more pointed, it's more directed, and the other one's more like enjoying being in a parachute or something.
Yes.
Being more along for the ride and sort of enjoying something about like the Soarin in the atmosphere type stuff where it's not focused on like, I need to make sure to dodge this tower. I need to make sure to like go to the right thing. I need to make sure not to crash. And like where you have so many responsibilities on you. When it's the kind that we're hearing now, where it's like Han and Chewie flying, or you're soaring over California. It is there. Not only is it more connected to nature, but I think it's also more connected to the person's to the person's appreciation of the landscape. It's like we're enjoying ourselves. It's like, isn't this grand? Isn't this sweeping? Whereas when you're flying through space at 10 times the speed or whatever, because you can't see, you're not like seeing mountains, and you're not seeing it. You're not as connected to what's happening. You know what I mean? Like, even though you fly really fast in space, or even like when you're on the inside of an airplane, like you're going really, really fast and you're going through air, but it feels more static. It doesn't feel the same as it does when you're clearly either descending or you are seeing actually what's under. It's slow enough. It's fast enough that it's like euphoric. It's slow enough that you can still take it in and not dissociate.
Yeah. That's such a great point. Yeah, 100%. I totally feel that as well.
So that theme is actually called Han and Chewie. FYI. And it's the Soarin' Over California theme. Yeah. So we're at the end of the minutes. It was a really fun set of minutes with a whole little arc for Chewbacca.
Look at him go. There he is. We met him. We thought he was a beast, and then we saw that he wasn't. He's just a great guy who needs a lot of food and a nice long shower, and a haircut. And then he'll be back to being the wonderful, friendly Wookiee next door that we all know and love.
Mm-hmm. And I will be keeping my ear out for the way that Chewbacca sounds moving forward. If we have more Black Chrysanthemum style Chewie noises, or if he becomes the more tender sounding, less ferocious, less on edge, less trapped in an Imperial prison version of Chewbacca. I think, again, like, I just think it's so interesting how sound design really does have a point of view. There really is no such thing as like canon sound. It's always portrayed from someone's perspective. And if Han is primed to be like, oh no, there's a beast, we're going to hear those sounds as being more scary. And I mean, I just think even diegetic sound is such an unreliable narrator. It reflects the lens of the protagonist in any given moment.
That I love that so much because I love, like, I just first off just love listening to you speak about music because so you're a musician, I'm a writer, and so we're both storytellers in our own right. And so it's like the language that you're using to talk about storytelling through a musical lens is the way that it's the same. We use the same exact phrases. We look at it similarly. Our instruments are just completely different the way that we tell stories. And so, yeah, I love that so much. And that's so fascinating. And I can't wait to just have that perspective and keep that in my tool belt as I keep watching Star Wars and just other movies in general to come.
Oh yeah. Writing and making music are so like, they pair really well together in talking about the craft and like analyzing them. Like there are just so many cool parallels.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, are you ready for the Star Wars Music Minute Questionnaire?
Yes, I'm so ready.
All right. So this is the same set of questions that I ask every guest, starting with question number 1. In exactly 3 words, what does Star Wars sound like?
First word is majesty. Second word is hope. And third word is tragedy.
I like it. All right.
Thank you.
Question number 2. What's something related to Star Wars music or sound that you want to learn more about?
Since it is Oscar week, something that I always think about whenever the Oscars come around as I'm doing my ballot is sound editing versus sound mixing. And I always try to figure out the difference between the two based on a Google search so I could try and guess the movie that will win so that I can win my prize. And I feel like I still don't understand it. So yeah, however that relates to, I guess, specifically Star Wars, but even just movies and film, TV, and in general.
That's a really good question. Some of those jobs are it's easy to confuse them. Listeners, if you listen to A New Hope season episode, I believe 20, Nick Norton was the guest. Was it 19 or 20? I think it was 20. And he is a sound editor and dialogue editor and mixer and does a lot of sound stuff. And he explained a little bit like the 5 or 6 different types of sound in film or something. So go back to that if you want to know a little bit more about that. But the definitions do like change slightly depending on the project or the era. And so it really is like, I think film is like a whole thing where like behind the box or in the box or whatever, behind what we see, like there's so much stuff that we don't really know exactly how that happened. It's all behind the scenes. It's hard to know exactly like how that work got divided and whatever. Yeah. But I'm eternally curious about that question too.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Finally, what is a score or soundtrack that you're fond of besides anything Star Wars?
Right now, it is the Batman. I've been thinking about the Batman since that movie came out and have seen it 5 times in theaters. And
oh my God.
I know. I have like 40 pages of notes in my journal about this movie. It is truly one of my favorite things I've ever seen in my, and I'm not even like a Batman fan.
Interesting.
Which is very funny. So, yeah. So the Batman. Definitely.
My last guest, Darth Jocko, our good friend, recommended that to me.
Oh,
yeah.
So good.
Interesting.
Like the movie?
Yeah, the movie.
Yeah.
Based on our conversation. I still haven't seen it, but yeah, it's funny that it came up. It's funny that both you and him brought it up. Okay, wait. Bonus question. What would you encourage, like if you could encourage listeners to pay attention or look out for like one more thing, whether it's a sound or something else when they rewatch this film, what would it be? It could be from these minutes or something. But
I think it's going to be what you said that you were going to be looking out for, because it's something that I want to look out for when I'm rewatching is like Chewie specifically, and how he changes in the way that how his Shyriiwook comes out, because like as you mentioned, the way that we hear it at the beginning of these minutes is very chrysanthemum, it's very animalistic, and then it kind of starts changing into the Chewie that we know. And so specifically, I'm interested in how it changes throughout the film, how he interacts with different characters, how he sounds with different characters, and then when they're in Spice Mines of Kessel, like how does it sound when he's seeing his fellow Wookiees down there, and how does he sound? Because we hear how different he sounds to like Chrysanthemum, but with those Wookiees, do they sound the way that he did when he was trapped, because they're in like a similar enslaved, malnourished situation? And so how do like, yeah, that's something that I have never thought about in general, is just the way that like Chewie sounds and how he communicates, and how that shifts based on like his, like how does a character that doesn't speak English convey his own emotions when you don't understand the words?
very well said. I love it. Yeah, that's a good point to see if his sound changes like when interacting with other people too. Yeah, I mean, I love that we just opened this whole like box of curiosity now to pay attention to. So yeah, listeners, do let me know if you have any observations regarding that. This also kind of makes me wonder if there exists a possibility that we'll hear Black Chrysanthemum, who is a character who is a Wookiee that's in the Book of Boba Fett and in comics, but in the Book of Boba Fett we hear this other Wookiee, Black Chrysanthemum, is a much more vicious Wookiee than Chewbacca. I wonder if we hear a soft Chrysanthemum later. So we have to listen for that too.
Now, I really hope we get Aphra in live action soon, because I would love to hear what Black Chrysanthemum sounds like interacting with Aphra, and others. So, because I feel like his sound with Aphra would be very different from obviously how it is with Boba. And I mean, even like his sound with Boba at the beginning when they're on opposite sides versus when he joins their team. Yeah. What we now hear a more vicious Chewie, what is a soft and docile and warm Black Chrysanthemum that makes me just want to give him a big hug.
Well, we are officially on Wookiee Watch now, so we'll make that a thing.
Perfect. Wookiee Watch. Done.
Which leads nicely into where can people find you online, Camila?
Absolutely. Well, you can find me a couple places. As Xanthe mentioned earlier, my username on TikTok is very relevant to today's minutes. I'm at BoricuaWookiee on TikTok. And then I actually have a Star Wars narrative podcast.
It's really good.
It's called... Thank you. It's called Beings of the Galaxy, and each episode tells the stories of the different people in the background and how they are the heroes of their own stories. It's an anthology series. You can find that. You can listen to that. Season 1 is streaming now, wherever pods are cast, and then you can also find us on Instagram at Beings of the Galaxy Pod. And that's me.
Awesome. Let me know if you need a voice actor for that.
Definitely. Yeah. I am starting to slowly get ready. Things are a little crazy work wise, but as things slow down, I've started gathering ideas for stories for season 2 and for people. So I appreciate you offering. I will definitely be hitting you up.
Awesome. Well, go follow Camila. I will put all the links in the show notes, and you can follow Star Wars Music Minute also on all the same places. We're on Spotify. We are on TikTok, Twitter, and I'll just put all the links in the show notes. So no need to draw out my awkward endings as usual. So yeah, just find, you know where to, if you found this pod, if you're listening to this right now, you already know where to find me. So problem solved. All right. Thank you so much, Camila. I love talking Star Wars with you. It was really fun. Listeners, thank you for continuing along this journey with Solo, a Star Wars story. Next week we'll be getting into minutes 26 through 30. That's right. We're getting into minutes 26 through 30 next week. So, may the Force be with you, and see you next week on Star Wars Music Minute.